You're listening to RX Report, where you get your health, your news delivered. I'm your host, Manuel, coming to you from the home of pharmacy here at the American Pharmacists Association in Washington, D.C. It's Advocacy Week, and we need to talk about the change happening in policy for the profession. So I'm joined today by Dr. Laura Szynski. She's a pharmacy manager for a Walgreens specialty pharmacy and serves on the APhA New Practitioner National Member Engagement Standing Committee. Wow, say that 5 times fast. She has been deeply involved in pharmacy advocacy, so we are going to pick her brain on today's show. I'm excited to hear from her, and I know that you are too. So be sure to click that like and subscribe button. Be sure to leave a comment to join the conversation, and let's dive in. All right, Dr. Szynski, welcome to the show, and thanks for being on RX Report. I really want to dive just right into what you're doing. You've been in the profession for about 5 years. You've been advocating for just as long. Tell me a little bit about a moment where you saw your advocacy efforts actually make change that you wanted to see in the profession.
Yeah. So I've been a pharmacist for 5 years. Started advocating as a student really through APhA. They kind of really showed me the way with that, and I've had a lot of good friends and mentors here in Indiana who's helped me. I would say I've seen most of the change on the local side just because of it's easier, to get change moving on the state than the federal. That's a whole other big ball game. But in Indiana, when I was a student, the very first big change I saw when I was on their legislative council was our ability to write for smoking cessation products. And I just thought that was so cool as a student. And then as I've continued on the legislative council now, I've seen a lot of different things. I saw my mentor, fight really hard to get birth control prescribing done in Indiana. And we have that just like some other states do. So that's really like the cool moment that you get to see your hard work, but also like your mentors and friends' hard works really go to play.
And that's really great to see. I mean, you are being the change that you want to see in the professions. You've been a pharmacist for the past 5 years, and I'm sure a lot of changes happened since then. Where do you see the profession evolving in the next 5 to 10 years, especially with hopefully some incoming PBM reform?
Yeah, so hopefully with PBM reform, I think that's something we've been fighting for forever. It was something I knew as a student, and here we are still 5 years later. Hopefully if we can get good PBM reform that gets price transparency out there, gets reimbursement rates at a level that can sustain pharmacy practice, hopefully, us pharmacists can get out there more than just behind the counter dispensing. If we can get that PBM reform and get the payment needed, we can provide better services to our patients. Lots of states have already started prescribing different meds. As pharmacists, we can do that. We take, years and years of pharmacology. So hopefully, if with PBM reform, you can see your pharmacists doing more of that work, especially in the rural areas where it's hard to get to a doctor's office. But also hopefully seeing the pharmacists more out in the community at like festivals, parades, like being out there and, getting the pharmacist back into the community, I think is key because we are one of the most accessible health professions out there. So, being there for our patients and making sure our patients can afford, get their medications, but then further that and offer all of these different types of clinical services for them.
And see, that's a good point because I feel like the general idea of what a pharmacist is from somebody who's uneducated is it's somebody prescribing your prescriptions behind a counter. But like you mentioned, it seems like the profession is so much more varied than that. There's so many different avenues you can take as a pharmacist. And like you said, it's the most accessible profession. I mean, I can only imagine what many, many changes are coming down the road for those many different avenues. It seems like a multiple choice quiz where you have like 50 different answers.
Yes, back to pharmacy school, where it's like A, B, A, and B, or all of the above. Yeah, there's lots of different paths for us. All of us have specialized in some kind of way usually. Whether you're a community pharmacist, you're specialized in community. You're clinical. If you're a hospital pharmacist, you may be specialized in cardiovascular or something else. But we all have our little niches that we do. And we all have the same training and schooling for, to get that PharmD. So lots of things that we can do that I don't think the general public realizes, and lots of things that we want to do, we just can't do with the current legislative landscape.
So with that in mind, the current legislative landscape, there are a lot of different changes probably coming down the pipeline already, not to mention in the coming future. Where do you really see trends coming down that pharmacists should be prepared for? Like, what changes should, if I was a pharmacist, be getting ready for to just deal with in my day-to-day profession?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Obviously, still seeing and watching the prices of drugs and things like that. There is a bunch of talk of PBM reform, but there's always been a bunch of talk of PBM reform. So really following that and making sure that the PBM reform that we're getting is what we need. You know, it's looking at transparency of prices for the pharmacies. It's looking at payment models and payment rates, looking at DIR fees, and what clawbacks may be. So like one, really diving in, learning that, so that we can get out there more. We can spend more of our time helping patients rather than thinking, can I keep the lights on in my pharmacy and pay my staff?
So you're a pharmacy manager for a specialty Walgreens pharmacy out there, and that's already what sounds like a very hard job. But as I understand it, you're also doing all this advocacy work. You're going to like parades and different community events where you can actively showcase what your profession can do for the general public, for the patients. How do you get into something like that? Like, how do you get so inspired to be an advocate for the profession? Like, what inspired you to be an advocate?
Yeah, well, first, I'm very lucky that my current job allows me to do those things. So I'm very lucky that they allow me to do the things that I love outside of just being a pharmacist in the pharmacy. I would say my advocacy started when I was a little girl. My mom was into local politics, and I would go out with her to all of the parades and fairs, as a 7-year-old in my pigtails. And my mom taught me a lot there that you need to do the right thing, even if it's not the popular thing. And I watched her do that through her years of local politics. And while I knew I wanted to become a pharmacist, I still wanted to be involved in change and in advocacy. And I learned at Butler when I was there as a student that you can do that. So really got my first foot in advocacy through APhA, then, got involved through Indiana, my state here, and have continued to do that through different avenues. I'm the first member at large for the new practitioners on policy. So being able to shape that role and create that role is really like a full circle moment for me. Like, I don't think if you would have told my 7-year-old self that I would be doing this for my profession, I would believe them.
So fighting for the change you want to see is a family tradition. It runs basically in your blood at this point.
Basically, yes. My mom has struggled and done lots of hard work for our local community, and it's really inspired me, to continue to do so in a different way, through pharmacy and through our patients.
But if I'm a pharmacy professional that wants to speak out on behalf of my profession, but in today's landscape where if you say an opinion on something, you can, depending on the audience, really get some flack for that. What advice would you give for me or any pharmacy professional that may be hesitant to advocate for their profession?
Yeah, I would say right now it is a very scary time, to use your voice, but we still have to continue to do so. Advice I could give, honestly, stick to the facts, don't use the feelings. Feelings is when it gets us in trouble sometimes. So, when advocating for change, sticking to the facts, the statistics and things like that. The other thing I would say is, like, you don't have to go big. You don't have to, go to DC at the Capitol or even go to your state house. You can do small things from home, such as writing letters to your legislator, inviting a legislator to your pharmacy to see different things, or even just advocating for your patients. Like, you don't necessarily have to advocate for the profession, but if you're out there advocating for your patients and making sure that this drug's the correct drug, or hey, look, there's a foundation that can cover the price of this medicine for you, let's get you signed up. Like, that's still advocating and making the pharmacy profession better. So I think that would be the advice I'd give. Like, don't be too scared, stick to the facts, but also at the end of the day, like, our patients, our legislators, they're all human, and so are we. So just doing the best that we can on either side that we're trying to improve upon.
Well, on this Pharmacy Advocacy Month, I am extremely happy that we were able to get you on the show to kind of give us the lowdown on what is happening and what we can do to better advocate for the profession of pharmacy in general. Dr. Szynski, thank you so much for being on RX Report. We loved having you. And that is our show. If this episode made you want to talk to Dr. Laura Szynski, then be sure to leave us a comment. Maybe click that like and subscribe button as well. Our executive producer is Rob Hodges. Our creative producer and co-editor is Kate Erdmann. And until next time, I've been your host, Mason Manuel. Be sure to tune in next Friday for more RX Report, where you get your health, your news delivered. But till then, bye y'all.